Resuming debate, the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to take a moment to apologize for two incidents that took place yesterday in this House. First, I apologize for crossing the floor in an attempt to have the member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes take his seat. That intervention was not appropriate. It was not my role, and it should not have happened. In particular, I should not have made physical contact with the member, and I apologize to the member and to all parliamentarians for my inappropriate contact. To the member for Berthier-Masquinongé. In my haste, I did not pay attention to my surroundings, and as a result, I made physical contact with the member for Berthier-Masquinongé, something I regret profoundly, for which I apologize unreservedly, and which should absolutely not have happened. I apologize to my colleagues, to the House as a whole, and to you, Mr. Speaker, for failing to live up to a higher standard of behaviour. Members rightfully expect better behaviour from anyone in this House. I expect better behaviour of myself.
No photographs are allowed, folks.
Makes it very clear that I should have taken precautions and cleared my family vacation and dealings with the Aga Khan in advance. I'm sorry I didn't, and in the future I will be clearing all my family vacations with the Commissioner's office. I've always considered the Aga Khan a close family friend, which is why I didn't clear this family trip in the first place, but given the Commissioner's report, I will be taking all precautions in the future. Happy to take your questions.
Why do you keep describing the Aga Khan as a close family friend when the report says you haven't spoken in 20 years?
I consider the Aga Khan to be a family friend. I fully accept the report of the Commissioner. Her responsibility is to protect the integrity of the office. She made a determination that he is not a family friend. I still consider him a family friend, but moving forward, even on people I consider to be family friends or friends, I will be proactively checking with the Commissioner on any personal travel and vacations.
With all due respect, you were going to take a free holiday from someone you consider a friend, but obviously you have a different definition of a friend than the Commissioner. You knew that they had a lobbying registry, that they were set up to lobby the government. How could it not have occurred to you that that might not have been okay?
No. The fact is, we work sorry, let me just try to reorder the thoughts. We worked with the lobby Conflict of Interest Commissioner on a regular basis on a broad range of issues when the issues come up. On this issue of a family vacation with a personal friend, it wasn't considered that there would be an issue there.
Obviously, there was a mistake. The Aga Khan is someone who has been a longtime friend of my family's, a friend of mine, a friend to Canada as well. And for me to look for a place to have a quiet vacation where I can have quality family time is something we all look for with our families. In 2001, when I was a teacher out in Vancouver, I attended an end-of-year gala where the theme was Arabian Nights. And I dressed up in an Aladdin costume and put makeup on. I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better, but I didn't, and I'm really sorry.
You weren't 16 or 20, you were 29. You're 29 years old. It was a mistake. It's something I should not have done. I should have known better. And I regret it profoundly.
The only time you've done something like this, Mr. Trudeau, is that the only time in your life you've ever done something like that?
When I was in high school, I dressed up at a talent show and sang Deo with makeup on.
Last night on the plane, when we asked you if the picture that emerged in the Time report was the only time you had done this, you left us with the impression there was only one other incident. And since then, Global News has released a video which seems to show that there was at least a third incident. So exactly how many times have you darkened your skin with makeup in an act that you have yourself described as racist?
I shared the moments that I recollected, but I recognize that it is something absolutely unacceptable to do. And yeah, I appreciate calling it makeup, but it was blackface. And that is just not right. It is something that people who live with the kind of discrimination that far too many people do because of the color of their skin, or their history, or their origins, or their language, or their religion, face on a regular basis. And I didn't see that from the layers of privilege that I have. And for that, I am deeply sorry, and I apologize.
Mr. Trudeau, Teresa Wright from the Canadian Press. You said just a few minutes ago that you told us last night on the plane that of all of the different instances that you recalled, have you since been made aware or remembered of other instances, and if so, how many?
I think it is obvious that this is something that was deeply regrettable. I am wary of being definitive about this because the recent pictures that came out, I had not remembered. And I think the question is, how can you not remember that? The fact is, I didn't understand how hurtful this is to people who live with discrimination every single day. This morning, I know people want to hear more about the Canada Student Service Grant Program in particular. I know there are many questions and problems with the way this program is run about, and I know people have concerns about it. I get that. I made a mistake in not recusing myself immediately from the discussions given our family's history, and I'm sincerely sorry about not having done that. Obviously, I knew that I had spoken at various We Charity events. I'd never been paid to do so. I was also aware that my wife had an unpaid role as a We Charity ambassador and ally. I knew she appeared at We Charity events and that when she traveled to get to an event, We Charity covered her related expenses. I also knew that Sophie had recently launched a podcast on mental wellness in conjunction with We Charity. The Ethics Commissioner had approved this role, including We Charity covering her expenses. I also knew that my brother and mother had worked with We Charity as well as with other organizations. However, I did not know how much work either of them had done with We Charity or how much they'd been paid.
Now, what you've admitted today is not just that you were in a conflict of interest, but that you consciously recognized in your May cabinet meeting that such a conflict might exist. That it didn't just slide by your desk, that you were consciously aware that there was an inappropriate link to your family that would put you in a conflict. Why did you, at that moment, not call the ethics commissioner and recuse yourself?
That is simply not true, Mr. Poilievre. The issue of advancing issues for one's own family. And by the way, the ethics commissioner is looking into this right now, and I fully trust his judgment on determining it. But at the same time, my concern around recusing myself was a question around perceptions, because I knew full well that this Canada Summer Students Grant Program was not going to directly benefit my mother or my brother.
Your 16 seconds are up. Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again, because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the We Group. So you've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared, but I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
My mother
How much?
has
just the dollar figure
throughout her life.
The dollar figure, Prime Minister.
In various ways, and is proud
How much?
of the work that she's done, and I'm proud of her.
How
as
much?
Well.
I'm looking for a dollar figure.
We can get that number for you if you like. It's been out in the media.
It's been in the media, but you don't know it?
I don't have it in front of me, and quite
you don't
frankly,
know how much your family has received from this organization, which you tried to give $500 million. Really?
Can I answer, Mr. Poilievre?
I'm waiting. You haven't done an answer so far. Let's make this the first one.
My mother.
We're on this.
Before I take questions from the media, I want to address the issue of last week. Traveling on September 30th was a mistake, and I regret it. The first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation was a time for Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people alike to reflect and connect, think about the past, but also focus on the future. I want to thank Chief Casimir of the Kamloops for the conversation we had over the weekend, in which I apologized for not being there with her and her community for this important day. And I committed to going to visit the Kamloops Teswekmuk community in the coming weeks. There's a lot of work for us all to do, and I'm committed to doing it. Merci. Je suis heureux de prendre vos questions.
Thank you. I'm happy to take your questions.
Minister, we'll go to the room for questions. Ashley Burke.
Hi, Prime Minister. Ashley Burke, CBC News. What made you decide to take a personal trip to Tofino on a day that your government set aside to honor the victims and survivors of residential schools?
Like I said, it was a mistake to travel on that day.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau, Olivier Ferrand.
Good morning, TVA. I'd like to come back to Tofino. Why did you lie on the itinerary? What message is being sent? Answer, there was no lie. It was said you were in Ottawa. No, the itinerary said that I had private meetings and I had calls for a number of hours that day with survivors of Indian residential schools. I would like to know, what responsibility do you take for the fact that at the end of this first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, you were talked about more than reconciliation? Answer. Obviously, in my speech the night before to launch the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on the Hill, I spoke about the need for all of us, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, to focus on what happened in Indian residential schools and to understand the truths of the past, but also to be present for healing and to build better for the future.
Will he take personal responsibility for this shame and personally apologize on behalf of himself?
Right. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all of us in this House, I would like to present unreserved apologies for what took place on Friday, and to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian delegation for the position they were put in. For all of us who were present to have unknowingly recognized this individual was a terrible mistake and a violation of the memory of those who suffered grievously at the hands of the Nazi regime.
We have here in the chamber today Ukrainian Canadian world veteran from the Second World War who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
Formally?
I recognize that this was a situation that shouldn't have happened. But my desire to protect Canadians and at the same time to protect the integrity and the independence of our judicial institutions remained throughout. But we recognize that the way this happened shouldn't have happened. And I take responsibility for the mistakes that I made. At the same time, we learned many lessons through that, and we're aided and will be aided by the McClellan report, which has been released today.
You take responsibility for what happened in this affair. And I harken back to something you wrote on Twitter, of all places, in 2013, when you said it's hard not to feel disappointed when you're in your government when there is a scandal, new scandal every day. This particular issue has been before Canadians now for many, many months. You've come into some intense criticism from the Commissioner today. When you say you take responsibility, what does that actually look like in concrete terms? And what do you say to disappointed Canadians who may not want to vote for you now based on what they're reading today?
Taking responsibility means recognizing that what we did over the past year wasn't good enough. But at the same time, I can't apologize for standing up for Canadian jobs, because that's part of what Canadians expect me to do.